You are awesome. I'm Jeremy Andrew Davis, and this is the first in a series of numerous videos where I'm going to be sharing my experiences of how I have cured my fibromyalgia and a number of my other secondary conditions. For 34 years of my life, I had fibromyalgia. Each year I got exponentially worse in all of my conditions. And the last year where I had fibromyalgia before I started this new treatment program, I was told by my medical providers that I was in the top 10% of severity. I was disabled, couldn't work. I could hardly lift my kids. When I did lift my kids, I was afraid that I would drop them. Things were very dark. You may have heard that fibromyalgia is classified as a functional condition, meaning that mainstream medicine, when they do the tests, whatever tests they may be, from MRIs, CAT scans, blood work, yada, 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 they can't find anything that is an indicator that says that something is wrong. And so either they don't understand what is causing the problem, or they don't have the tools to measure it. In my experience going through this healing process to completely cure my fibromyalgia and get medically verified that I am indeed cured, I understand now that fibromyalgia is a system-wide issue. It is health that has been affected on every single element of our health. So if you're looking for a magic bullet, a pill, or a single exercise, or you name it, one thing that's drastically going to help, I'm sorry to tell you that you're going to be disappointed. I use so many different techniques, treatment methods, modalities, all that work together to help the system work together for better health and to overcome these very complex health issues that I've had and a lot of you have. And I have to say that all of this would not have been possible without one man. His name is Michael Jones. He's an alternative healthcare provider. He specializes in neuromuscular massage therapy. Now, he is unlike any other neuromuscular massage therapist in the world. He has a very specific approach and technique and training that makes sure that it is applied in a very particular way to get the results that he has. He is looking for people who are in the field that he can train and help. So if you are interested, there is going to be a link down below. You can find his website. Or if you're interested in learning more about him and going to see him for treatment, that information is on his website again. And so he got me started on this journey and taught me these foundational principles. And I also learned in the process of how to find and test resources, treatments, modalities that I could implement and measure how I could have success. He's also a mentor, and I go into sessions with him regularly where we are making sure that what I am doing is continuing to work, that I'm not going too far, too fast, blowing myself up. And he's measuring to make sure that I stay on track with continued healing and growth to become healthier and healthier. I more than recommend going and checking out his website. There's a lot of really great scientific information in there. Can be overloading. Don't try to read the whole thing all at once, but some really good resources to check out there. In this video, I want to lay that groundwork for you that was laid for me in the beginning. So you have a basic understanding of what is necessary to move forward, because if you don't have these foundational elements in place, you could do a treatment that could work, but if you don't do it at the right time, if you don't do it in the right way, it can actually make you worse. And that's why there's so much out there of competing information of what works and what doesn't. It's because those techniques only work when done in an appropriate way and at the appropriate time. Now, before I go into all of that and start telling you the things that I've learned, please know that that is all this is. This is me sharing my experiences of overcoming my health issues. I have zero formal medical training. I have learned a lot about how the body works, about how our health functions, and I want to share that. But I am not a medical provider, and so please do not see me as a medical provider for your health. If you can learn from me and take some of the things that I have experienced and learned and incorporate them into your life, that is your choice, but I am not a medical advisor. So with that out of the way, I want to go over the basic principles. Now, I've already covered some principles in previous videos. My very first video, if you have not watched The Key to Start Healing yet, that is the #1 basic foundational principle to all health. The Cliff's Notes version is, if your body is in a state of fight or flight or freeze, then it is in a stress state. It's in survival mode. And when the body's in survival mode, the body isn't doing healing processes. It is shutting down healing processes in order to stay alive from some perceived threat. So in that survival mode caused by stress, it reacts as if a lion is chasing it. And if a lion is chasing you, your body is not going to be trying to heal the cut on your finger. It's going to be diverting all energy to getting away from the lion to keep you alive. So if you're living in a state of perpetual stress, or where most of your day you're feeling stressed out, even subconsciously, that you don't necessarily feel on the surface, that is inhibiting your healing processes. That is inhibiting your immune system and putting your central nervous system out of balance. So that is the first step. I go into more detail into that video on tips to help overcome that and get out of the fight or flight state, so definitely check that out. But that is the first step. Once you're no longer in fight or flight, your body can start healing, but that next stage is getting to the point where you can absorb. And absorption takes many different forms, and we can absorb in very different ways. So for example, food-wise, you may have an allergy to almonds. That doesn't mean that almonds are unhealthy, it just means you personally can't absorb them. It's the same thing with treatments. So you can go to physical therapy and go through the motion to heal, say, an injury. But if your body is not absorbing doing that physical therapy, even though the physical therapy techniques are healthy and good, you can actually be flaring up your body more and actually putting yourself back into survival mode because your body is saying, this is too much for me right now, I can't handle it. So if you've ever had the experience where you've had fibromyalgia and you've done some sort of treatment for it, such as physical therapy, and at some point in that it's feeling worse or you're still deteriorating, your physical therapy could potentially be making you worse. Another systemic way that we might not be absorbing is emotionally. Once we get emotionally overloaded, we get angry, start yelling at the kids, things like that. That's another way in which we've had too much emotional stimulation. We've gotten to the point of overload. We're not absorbing that emotional input, and we're having basically an emotionally allergic reaction to the stimulus that we're bringing in. In all my years of seeing dozens of doctors, I have not heard of anybody but 2 medical practitioners who have ever talked about absorption. Allergies are a form of not absorbing, and yet you don't hear of doctors teaching patients how to overcome that so that they're no longer allergic to those things. As I went through my treatment with Mike and got to where I could absorb more and more, I've had allergies go away. That I'm no longer allergic to those things anymore, which is, you don't hear about that kind of thing. No medication to get rid of the allergies. The only 2 people that I've ever heard talk about absorption and how we need to look at absorption for all patients before we give them any kind of treatment is Dr. Vreeland and Michael Jones. And Michael Jones, he learned it from Dr. Vreeland and has expanded on it and puts it into practice with his patients to make sure his patients are absorbing the treatment and benefiting from it. The key way that Mike has expanded on Dr. Vreeland's research into absorption is discovering that when you give a patient something that they don't absorb, you're actually reinforcing the unhealthy neurological pathways that is causing an imbalance in the central nervous system. I'll get to more of what that looks like and why that's important in a little bit in this video, but the key is that if you're not absorbing and you're doing something that you're not absorbing, it can make you worse. An analogy for this is if I have my arms full and somebody's trying to give me something that's ultimately helpful, but I can't carry it, I'm either going to drop something that I'm carrying that's helpful, or I have to tell the person, I don't know what to do with that, get rid of it. And so it's causing more strain on the body. It causes more inflammation, more stress, and that only makes things worse. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video to this where I go more in depth into absorption. I'll teach you how to test your absorption to make sure what you are doing is actually helping you and not making you worse. So if you subscribe and hit the little notification bell, it'll email you when I have that video done if you're interested. But absorption is a major key in being able to get to where you can even begin healing. Fibromyalgia is truly death by 1,000 cuts. So I'll oftentimes hear people say, well, I tried this treatment and it didn't work. I didn't notice a difference, or it made me worse. Someone else will say, well, I tried a gluten-free diet and it didn't do anything for me. And something to keep in mind is you have to put into practice a number of different things over time for you to actually see a difference. And the reason for that is that death by 1,000 cuts. So if I have 1,000 cuts and I take gluten out of my diet and that one cut disappears, I'm not going to notice the difference because I still have 999 cuts. I didn't feel much better when one of those cuts went away. So I would advise to be very careful to dismiss a technique or to dismiss a certain lifestyle element, such as something in your diet, purely because at one point you tried it and it didn't work for you. It may be because you weren't absorbing, or it may be because that one thing wasn't enough for you to feel a big difference. But once you start compounding these techniques and removing 5, 10, 20 of the things that are exacerbating symptoms that you don't know about, you take those away and pretty soon you're feeling a lot better. Something that really helped me in this process of getting better was actually understanding what causes fibromyalgia. Stress, whether it's physical stress like biochemical stress, emotional stress, mental stress, any kind of stress compounded and worked over a long period of time is definitely the external sources of what can lead to fibromyalgia. But I want to talk about what is fibromyalgia in the body. What causes the symptoms of fibromyalgia and all the secondary conditions that often accompany it is an imbalance in the central nervous system. Now, the central nervous system controls everything in your body, moving to your blood flow, to your emotions, your thoughts. Without the central nervous system, none of that happens. And so when there's a malfunction in the central nervous system, the things that controls then also malfunctions. And because the body is a system, a malfunction in one area, such as an injury to your hand, can affect a seemingly completely unrelated area, such as your mood. And that's because your body is based on balance and proper communication through the central nervous system. If there's communication breakdown in the body, then an injury in my hand isn't going to be able to be fixed because the central nervous system can't communicate what is needed to heal whatever that is. So fibromyalgia is being caused by miscommunications throughout the central nervous system. For some reason, our nervous system is sending pain signals to the brain where there doesn't appear to be injury. So once we're able to change our stress response to the stress inputs coming our way, whether that's changing our diet so that we're not having physical stress inputs that we're putting into our bodies, such as sugar or pesticides, etc., to how we handle emotional stresses, such as at work, making mental shifts so that those things aren't stressing us out as much. Once we make those changes and put our body in a place where we can break out of survival mode and we start looking at absorption, then we can start approaching the central nervous system to retrain the central nervous system to have a balance in the central nervous system. There's a lot that goes into balancing the central nervous system. And the goal is to get to the central integrated state. Now, there's a whole article on this on Mike's website. I fully recommend reading it. It is pretty heavy medical stuff. I'll have a link down below. Go read it. And it talks about all the different ways that the central nervous system is out of balance and needs to be put in balance. It's not an exhaustive article, it is long, but there's some really good information in there of how all this works on a biological, neurological level. I will be doing a follow-up video on the central nervous system as well, how it works, how it is functioning improperly with people who have fibromyalgia and really any health condition. If you have a health condition that you haven't had from birth, like a birth defect, that is caused by an imbalance in the central nervous system. And if you can balance the central nervous system then has the power and ability to communicate, and the body is able to heal itself in the way it's designed to do. And so we can cure virtually any disease with our bodies just working well. So the key is, how do we get the body working well? I'll be doing another video on this, like I said. The importance of knowing this is knowing how your body works. So you can be your own physician, and you can choose the techniques from an educated point of view. And you can implement them and test them so that you know that you're getting better. Because one thing that happens, and it's really concerning, is people will find something and they'll start doing it and they'll feel a little better afterwards. But the reason why they're feeling better is they're kicking their fight or flight response into high gear. So the body releases endorphins, it releases adrenaline, and it gives a boost of energy because it's going, I have to get away from this lion. So in reality, the person may feel better in the short term, but they're doing long-term damage because they're reinforcing the neurological pathways that are out of balance. That's why I'm doing this series, because it's so easy. I was there myself. I went to a treatment for 5 years that I thought was helping me. And initially I might feel a little better, but then it would take me a week and a half to recover from the treatment. I would come down off of this high and I'd have no energy. I'd hurt more. And I thought, oh, it's hurting more, no pain, no gain. I must be healing. My body must be healing itself. That's why I'm hurting. But it wasn't. And every year I got exponentially worse. So when I started going to see Mike, he taught me monitoring methods that I could test whether or not a treatment was helping me or hurting me. And I very quickly realized that physical therapy and treatment that I was going to for the past 5 years was making me exponentially worse. I stopped going. I immediately felt like I had more energy, and then subsequently going through Mike's program, doing the elements when I should do them, I started healing. After I finished my month of homework to prep myself to even be able to go to treatment with Mike, I did my first treatment, and my pain level on a good day before that was the whole body was at a pain level of 8. And in many places over the body, I was up to a 10 and beyond. And I went into my first official treatment after the consultations and doing the prep work so that I could be in this absorption mode. And I'm not expecting much. And Mike does the treatment on me, and I release to a pain level of 2. I had not felt that low level of pain in memory. Maybe when I was a kid, but I sat up on the table and I just cried. Indescribable. I did not think that that was possible. And that's why I want to share what I've learned with all of you, because I want you to be able to learn what I've learned and put into practice what I've been able to put into practice. I wish everybody could go to Mike. Mike only has so much time in the day. He often has a waiting list. But I want other doctors and other medical providers, no matter what your background is, to go to Mike and get trained so we can spread this methodology and learn different techniques for giving people the foundations that I was given so I could cure my fibromyalgia, and so can you. I am putting out as many videos as I can with my very full schedule. With that schedule in mind, subscribe and I will put out as many videos as I can. This truly is my way of giving back. I really hope that you join our community. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell to get those notifications so you know when my next video comes out. And until the next video, I hope that you can also elevate your life.